Hello, everyone, and welcome to InvenTank. I'm Lisa Lloyd, and we are streaming today live on LinkedIn and Facebook, or you may be catching us on your favorite podcasting platform with one of our replays. In a moment, I will open up the Q&A questions where we'll get your questions answered. So feel free to drop your questions in the comments at any time throughout our show, and we'll answer them in the order in which they come in. Joining me as my guest host today is Warren Tuttle. Warren leads open innovation for Lifetime Brands which is the largest kitchen utensil manufacturer and an industry leader in cutlery, cookware, tabletop products. They've produced over 18,000 SKUs. And if you're not sure what that means, it's just that every peg on the shelf in the store is a SKU, SKU. And they're under 32 different brand names. So I'm sure you've heard of Farberware, KitchenAid, and many more. Mikasa by Mikasa. So I love that brand. He's the former president of the United Inventors Association and author of Inventor Confidential, which we're going to talk a little bit about today. I'm very excited. Warren, I'm so grateful to have you here to help me answer questions today. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks for having me. And I need to update that bio a little bit because Lifetime Brands is now up to 40,000.
Oh my God, that's right. You even mentioned that at the trade show. I should have caught that and asked you about it. 40,000.
Well, through acquisitions, and we have 9 divisions. And SKU is stock keeping unit for those who are, it's in every individual SKU. So it's pretty mind boggling some days.
Oh my God. How many employees does the company have through all of the divisions overall? Do you know?
Lifetime has 2,200 employees located, many at their head. Well, not many, not the majority actually. Many at their headquarters in Long Island, in Garden City, Long Island, near New York City. They have lots of people around the world, own divisions in Europe and Brazil and so forth. But they have a huge sales rep team too. For instance, they have 20 salespeople just in Bentonville, just to call on Walmart. So they're a $1 billion company now, and the last 2 years have been phenomenal. And they're a real fun company to work with.
It's amazing to hear you say the last 2 years have been phenomenal. It hasn't been for many, many people. And now we're dealing with supply chain challenges and stuff like that. What do you attribute that phenomenal success?
Well, they just gave their annual report yesterday to Wall Street. They are a publicly traded company, so very transparent. Yeah. When 2 years ago when COVID hit, it was a very unnerving time. And I remember discussions within the company. No one knew what was going to happen. So they had all types of provisions if things went south. But fact of the matter is, like some places like Home Depot and the hardware business, where a lot of people started renovating their homes and their business skyrocketed. Same thing happened to Lifetime. People started cooking at home more. You still had Amazon and deliver. People didn't have to go out of their houses, and their business just increased dramatically. I think their sales were up 13% last year. And they also, all of their stock, because of these supply chain issues, they went through all the stock they had on hand too. So financially, they had record runs, and now they're settling in for the new post-COVID era, which is going to mean a lot more innovation and things. But you're exactly correct. Most companies were struggling with supply chain issues and maybe took their eye a little off the ball on innovation. But I think that's going to start to change now, and we'll get back on course.
Yeah, it's true. I heard from a lot of people who called in for free consultations with me that the responses they were getting was that they wanted to table everything. They didn't know what was going to be happening, and they didn't want to consider any kind of innovation. They were just trying to figure out how to navigate the current challenges that they were facing.
That's right. So, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And significant, challenges too. But companies like Lifetime that have large market share or respective companies like them also ended up being the best prepared for the supply chain issues also. They already had pre-negotiated contracts on containers. If there was any setbacks, they were still at the head of the line. Like I was talking to a senior person at Depot recently, and they were so big and powerful, $150 billion a year in sales, they could, have their own ships, and so forth. So some of the larger companies have navigated these waters a little bit better. They had an advantage, and coming out of COVID, we'll see if they can maintain it.
So I don't know if you noticed, but Julia posted, she was asking about the climate in the world with pandemic, supply chain. And here we are already talking. So apparently we're all on the same page, Julia. Thank you so much for asking the question, though. If you want to elaborate, let us know.
There are a lot of challenges around the world right now.
There really are.
One thing you can be sure of is that in America, we continue to do business. And even in the worst of times, people come up with amazing things. And, think about the pandemic, Zoom, Amazon. I mean, some of these platforms have just completely, think about where we'd be without Zoom and Amazon. I mean, you can have your personal feelings about them, but let's face it, we've been able to stay at home and do events like this in real time. And in many ways, it's amazing what America has accomplished in these times. So.
Well, it's lowered the bar. It's created less friction for us to get our products in front of people like you who have the opportunity to review it. And I assume that that less trade shows and travel and all that have given back a lot of time to the employees to then review those opportunities.
That's true, but that's very true. But a little nuance that I might share that maybe I shouldn't, but even in lifetime, with all their employees, they're still at home, and although people occasionally go into the main office, people have been working locally. That's made it a little bit harder for me to because I would go to their headquarters a couple times a month and walk through the buildings and get little nuanced questions answered and get things accomplished that maybe it's a little more difficult. Sending in samples to a local spot. Now I'm sending to people's homes, things like that. We're getting on individual calls, and so it has had its challenges. But overall, the American spirit, we keep plowing ahead, and this country never takes a day off. So. What it is.
Well, I really want to dive into a question that I have about this. But before I do, I want to remind our audience that this is live. And so you're welcome to drop your questions in the chat. And Warren and I will do our best to answer those for you today. We'll take them in the order in which they're received. So Warren was nice enough to give this to me. We just met at the Chicago Houseware Show, and I've been thumbing through it. I haven't had a chance to read the whole thing, but there was something that really stood out to me that was near and dear to my heart that is in some ways argued amongst our peers in this business. And so I'd love to just kind of open this up and see if it stimulates our audience to have any questions as well, because I think it's very relevant. The subject is my advice on improving odds for your success, in which you say the difference between a novice and a great inventor is taking the right steps and going the extra mile, which will improve your odds for both licensing and marketplace success. You go on to say a little further, professional product development and inventing involve thorough marketplace research, building a functional prototype, continual refinement, clever problem solving, defining substantial claims, and filing strong patents. Make sure you understand everything about your product and the industry you are attempting to exploit, and make certain your product solves a real problem that appeals to enough paying customers. Remember, the licensing profit game is not finished when an agreement is signed. It is only the beginning.
That write that? I can't.
Oh my God. I'm just like,
I do think
yes, this is it. Okay. So the first thing that really stood out to me was the prototype, because there is an ongoing debate within our peers, of whether or not a prototype is necessary. So when and why do you think that's necessary?
Well, great question. And sometimes I think when we have these debates, we're dancing on the head of a pin, and obviously there's certain exceptions, to the rule. But I look at many thousands of submissions every year. And I can tell you that in the case of Lifetime Brands and the other companies, by the way, I've run Open Innovation Program for Tektronix Industries and their Power Tool Group and others as well, that proving function and having a product that actually works, that you can make the statement, hey, this thing works, even if it looks ugly, moves you up the chain of consideration greatly. I'll tell you, at Tektronix Industry, who make Ryobi and rigid tools and the biggest supplier to Home Depot, if you didn't have a video of your product functioning and working, we didn't even look at it. Okay.
Wow.
So that means by definition, if you're going to shoot a video, you need one that works. And by the way, sending in one of these animated, cartoon things, it doesn't do it. I can tell you that I've done licensing deals based upon that years ago, and the product could never be built. And who are they pissed at? Me. So I learned these lessons the hard way. Lifetime Brands, it's the same thing. The cadence always goes like this, Lisa. It's you can send me an idea, and I'll look at it. 99 out of 100 times, I'm going to write you back something polite that says, what I think, which is just my thoughts in response to your idea. But if you've developed a prototype now, it takes it to a new level. I can ask you a lot of questions functionally about the product. I have confidence now that if they like it at lifetime, I can send them one. They can put it through their paces. That's usually the next step in the process. I'm in that process right now with about 20 products, which I've secured the actual prototypes, and now they're down either in people's homes, like we talked before, or they're being used. I have one right behind me sitting here, a new knife that works in a completely different way. I'm going to use it tonight. We like to put things through its paces. It doesn't have to be beautiful, but it has to function, and that will separate you from just the idea folks. Now, I'm not saying that every single company in every single industry requires prototypes. We had a discussion yesterday with someone, at the Houseware show that says, we don't even require patents and so forth. So sometimes in the DRTV space, sometimes in the toy industry, it's not as important. But most of the industries, 90% of them out there, they want to see prototypes. And you got to get out of the fantasy land, because there are people that sell services to inventors that basically tell you to send in ideas and things. And I review them all the time. And I have to tell you that it's my mission to correct this and tell people to do it the right way.
So when I'm talking with inventors, the way, and it's okay if you disagree with me, but I'm going to tell you what I teach, and you tell me if there's any gaps in my thinking that you could help me correct.
Sure.
In my opinion, if a sketch, a 3D photo, or even a 3D animation can clearly define and demonstrate how it would work, and it's obvious to the person looking at it, like if it's a new spoon and it's just a design, obviously it's going to work when you make it. Then in those cases...
Okay, wait a second. You can never say that. There are some things that have been so obvious that when you say they can make it, that's a huge statement, because making it is very complicated and involved. It requires a lot of different iterations and testing and materials and so forth. And so you would think it would work. And I get that all the time from inventors. Of course it works. And I said, well, have you made one that works? Well, we haven't, but of course it works. Trust me, it doesn't always work. And so that's
using the example, that's why I'm being specific. If it is something where it's like a spoon and it's just right, then obviously it can be made. Now, but let me finish the thought real quick. However, if there's any internal parts or question at all about whether or not the product that you're demonstrating with a picture will actually get the job done, if there's any question in their thinking, then you've left a gap and an easy out for them to, especially if you're competing against a lot of other products that they can only afford to bring out, a small number of, that sort of thing. Having said that, if I put even just this spoon that just has a fatter, wider design, and the claim is it's more comfortable, and I can put that in your hands versus just showing you a picture to demonstrate that it gets that job done, then I'm that much closer to, yes? Okay.
100%. And listen, you give great advice to people, and I've been doing this a long time. Probably the only, well, maybe it's not the only, but when you, obviously I love inventors. I'm passionate about inventors. You are too. We work with inventors. We've given a lot of time to inventors. But at the end of the day, I spend a lot of time inside the corporate wall. Okay. And that's what sort of differentiates me a little bit from some other folks in our industry that we know, because I've learned a lot of lessons the hard way inside. So obviously my answers are generic, and they tend to be the usual things. And I'm not saying there's not exceptions to it.
Right.
But you have to sit in these meetings, and you know what I'm talking about, about how they really say things behind the scenes. I'll give you a perfect example that may not be direct correlation. But I remember reading in a book once, one of the things you can do is like combine functions. So maybe if you have a spoon and a spatula, and the spoon and the spatula can be combined. I'm making this is just
sure. I understand.
It up, and now you're going to call it the spoonula or something like that.
Right.
That this is something you could send in as an idea. I mean, this was literally written in the book by someone that we know, and that suggested that you could do this, right? And I get these all the time. When I say all the time, I mean all the time. So occasionally when I get together with the executive vice president who's the president of the kitchenware division, the largest kitchenware company in the world, I'll show him one of these, and One day he handed one back to me and he said, "If you ever bring me in one of these combo products again, you are thrown out of my office and banned from."
Oh, no.
We laughed heartily, but I'm just, when I write a book like this or tell you things or give you things back, what I'm trying to do is really help people. I know in the short term it hurts, but in the long term, one has to go beyond that. And so what I'm telling you on the prototype side is you can send me what you described earlier. The better you do it, the farther up the food chain you are, for sure. But at the end of the day, if you haven't built one, eventually the next step on the process is I'm going to come back and say, you know, do you have one that works? Now, what happens, right, people scramble. Oh, I can make you up one. I can do this and that. Okay, well, already there's a little divide there because I've kind of trusted in the process and you're not ready. But I'll go, okay, when you're ready, send it back to me. And then what people do is they put pressure on themselves and send me in crappy stuff. And I've seen this happen so often. So again, generically, this is what I've learned from the inside. And I know within these companies, again, with the exceptions that we talked about, but most of the time, they're going to want to see something that functions and feel good about it, and it fits into what they want to accomplish. And then we can take the next step. As you know, there's many steps after that too.
Oh, of course.
It's just the opening salvo. So it's a little bit like dating. Anybody can get a first date, but if you want that second, third, or beginning of a relationship, I think you have to follow these fundamental things.
Yeah, exactly. I have every single one of my licenses, all my hair accessories, even my CO2 powered airbrush, all required at least a proof of concept, some sort of functional, demonstrable product. And even though for like soft claws is one of my favorite stories to tell, because the first prototype I made or proof of concept was out of a toilet paper roll. Now, obviously I'm not going to show that to the company, but it was enough for me to know I'm on the right path. And that was really important in terms of fleshing out the solution.
Well, you know what? If you told me as an inventor that rather than say I haven't done a prototype, I just have a drawing, but you told me I built one out of paper mache and you've already moved up. To me, it's a whole
interesting
the process and doing it correctly. Now, obviously, I heard this was, well, you can't prototype every idea. No, what are you, nuts? You can't prototype. That's why you need to refine your ideas into something more specific. And I'll give you a perfect example there, because I know you're going to ask it next. Some people are just serial idea people and they send things in. I had a person that sent me a product that I came during the houseware show. I wasn't able to respond to them. Okay. So finally I got a chance to look at it this morning and they didn't have a prototype of something. And I sent back an explanation. I also gave them a little advice and said, there's a lot of other things in this area and here's what to look out for. Right after that, they said, do you mind if I sent you another product? I said, listen, you can send them to me, but I want to see them developed and, a little bit more. I gave them parameters. 10 minutes later, I get another idea. So then I go, this is just today. Okay. I mean, this happens all the time. And then I wrote back, I said, again, you got to develop, but I will just tell you, this is not a big category and blah, blah, blah. Now I go on. Now I have 100 other emails to do and I'm running around, like you are. And then 10 minutes later, I get another. And I go, okay, I wrote back, we're not pen pals. I don't have all day. So, I mean, I had to eventually be rude to cut it off. But the bottom line is everybody's poking around. And what happens is as you poke around as an inventor and you're not prepared and you haven't been taught right or coached right, and you come in and after I see you 2 or 3 times and we start to get this, I get an impression of what your capabilities are and you get put to the side. So I write about it a lot in the book. I evaluate the product and you, the inventor, make a good impression. Even if you haven't done everything the right way, be open, be listening, especially you men. Men, you don't listen. Women, men don't listen. Got to listen to what I'm saying and don't get yourself put in a hole where you can't get out of it. It's all part of the process of basically, you're applying to college, and you want to get in, you gotta do things kind of the right way. So
that's so awesome. And and it's men and women get their feelings hurt. Men get their egos hurt. Either way, you need to park it. And the easiest way to do that for both genders that I'm speaking to right now, or however you identify, it is absolutely critical that you fall in love with the problem and not your solution to it. if you stay open-minded and you go through this process with a curiosity, playful curiosity is how I like to say it, then you'll not consider that feedback as critical or against you or your idea. It will be constructive and insightful to help you improve and iterate, or for that matter, get new data that supports just walking away. But at least it's a business decision and a business case. It's not personal, and that helps reframe everything.
I think that's great advice. And I'll add to the men-woman discussion, because I've given a lot of thought to this. Men tend to be a little bit more, generally speaking, not always, but more engineering oriented. You mentioned ego. I'll say they're very consumed with materials, RPM speed, mathematical equations, and that type of thing.
The features, yeah.
Yeah. So when you ask them, why did you come up with that, they'll give you all these, well, it's, basically the answer is really cool, and women understand the benefit statement by and large much better than men, which is why women really have an opportunity to be great inventors, because the benefit side of it is so much more important at the end of the day. If a man or a woman invents, say, a new lawnmower that can mow your lawn automatically in half the time, if you asked a man, why did you invent that? He would start telling you, well, it's got, this horsepower, and it's good. And you're not going to have a clue what he's talking about. But a woman will say, well, if I can do the lawn in half the time, I can spend more time doing what I enjoy in life. So, this is I think this is really important. And I know it's a sideline of the discussion, but I'm sure we can.
No, it's good. It's good stuff. And I have another question for you. But first, Martin is asking, how can he show you his prototype? And Martin, for your sake, I'm going to throw up here Warren's email address. You can submit your information to him, and I would just ask you to follow the process you just talked about.
If you could put up my website too, because I do have a process for people to submit. So I have a website, Tuttle.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah, innovation.com. And if you go on, you'll see 3 categories: housewares, hardware, and DRTV. If it fits in those categories, you go. There's a questionnaire, and there's 8 questions, simple questions to answer. That's how to get the process started, because it's much more helpful for me to start in that way and get a feel for what you're all about. I know, Lisa, you have the same process. Sometimes we go around it, but you for people I don't know,
right?
It gets me started. It gives me a picture of where you start. And then if it's something, sometimes these products aren't even in my area, I'll get back to you and try to direct you the right way. But if they are, then we can start the process of communicating.
Yeah, and before we wrap up, we'll talk a little bit more about how you can submit, who you can submit, what types of products to submit, because Warren also represents another direct response company. So you can go to, and for those of you who are just listening on our podcast, that's tuttleinnovation.com, and that's Tuttle, innovation.com. Or you can go to www.tuttle@yahoo.com to email Warren with your information. But I think probably going to your website, tuttleinnovation.com, is the best place to start. So you can see those questions. And I think it'll be helpful for you to read through those questions, because if you can't answer them, you're probably not ready to be talking to someone anyway.
Well, I put that, I do a section in the book on that. And the questions, it's really amazing, Lisa. They've really held up over time. Most of the things on the website I've redone after 15 years, but the questions, and by the way, people, when people ask you a question, I'm not asking for all your secret details right off the bat. When I ask you to describe the product, I'm looking for a general description so I can get a feel if it's even in my space. And then as we go down the page, where are you in the development process, IP, prototypes, I get more specific. But don't feel, a lot of people say they want to sign an NDA before I read the questionnaire. And I will just say, I don't sign NDAs blindly, nor do the companies. I just am not, but so don't give me anything that you wouldn't just, be very general about it. So if we were talking about that lawnmower, just say, I've invented a lawnmower that mows the lawn in half the time. I mean, that's plenty. That's all I need to know to get a feel for it. We will pine into it. The next step, if we like it, I'll be signing non-disclosures with you and getting more specific information.
Beautiful. And I want to talk more about what happens behind the scenes. Derek, thank you so much for your comment. I'm glad that resonates with you. Fall in love with the problem and not the solution. It will keep you on track, I promise. Martin would like to know, Warren, where are you located?
Me? I live in Connecticut, about 50 miles outside of New York City. And no, you can't come to my house. Every week I get 3-4 people who want to fly in. And then I get people from Connecticut, so I could just come down here. if we get to the third level, I'll meet you at the Post Corner restaurant down the street. So.
Okay, so before we pierce the veil and talk about what happens on the other side of the curtain once a product is submitted, I do want to just wrap up the last sentence in your in what I just read from your book. Remember that the licensing profit game is not finished when an agreement is signed. It's only the beginning.
All right. Well, that's very true. So a lot of people. Okay, let me start over. A lot of people, when they get their patent, as I can see over your right shoulder, put it up in the wall, are very proud of it, and understandably proud. Oh, and your left shoulder.
A few more.
All over. Okay. All right.
We need a bigger wall.
You're a big deal. No, that's awesome, and rightfully so. It's a proud moment, but it doesn't guarantee financial success. The same is true.
Wait a minute. How are you not? You just signed an agreement. How could you possibly not make money? How is that possible?
No, very possible. So you can negotiate in advance. So there might be a check. When I sold my book rights, I got a nice check, in advance. But at the end of the day, the only real way to make money, and I did not write my book for money, but is to sell a lot of copies of the book, And at the end of the day, same goes for a product licensing agreement. At the end of the day, the product needs to be successful at market. Many products that I've signed licensing deals haven't been successful at market. Some of them, it turned out, couldn't be built for the right price. Some of them were built, packaged, put out in thousands of stores and didn't sell. This is part of the process. So what part are you responsible for as an inventor? Well, the more homework you do, the more work you do, the better product you put together, the more likelihood it could sell. So if you just throw together an idea and you think it's good, and you hoodwink someone in the company who's maybe not as knowledgeable, have been through this as many times as I have, and they sign you to a licensing deal, and they give you a small advance, and they take it out, well, then that's the first time you find out that there's nothing to it. It's not going to sell. And so this is not unusual. So here's when you have a winner. It's when you put the product out at market and you actually get a reorder. Reorder is, okay, go to dinner, have a great time the day you sign your licensing agreement. But the happy day for you should be when you hear that the product's being reordered and you're back on, and it's because that means customers like it enough for a retail. Now, Lisa, retailers are very analytic today, much more so than when I was a buyer, when I was younger. They're all into the numbers. If you go on QVC, go into the green room someday, watch all the numbers, and they make an evaluation on you while you're on air. They can tell you by the time you come off air how many you sold per minute. That's right. I can tell you that 1 out of only 16 of every new products that go on QVC ended up making it. If it doesn't make it, like it's happened to me, it gets sent back to you. You go into Bed Bath, Walmart, anywhere, they test it. They're looking for sales per square inch. You're going to be not even foot anymore, square inch. If you don't make it, those goods are coming back to you or to the company that sold them, and they're not paid for, and so forth. And so all that work, all that effort, you can sing from the hills, you got a licensing deal, but until it starts selling and it's reordered and you start to sell thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, that's when you make real money. That's when it matters. So again, and we've talked about it a lot in our industry, when people say they help someone and they sign a licensing agreement, to me as a professional on this side, it has no meaning to me. I want to hear a year later, did you sell them? We never seem to see those stories. Sold them a year later. And I can just tell you, as an inventor, you can use someone to help you. You can go through other folks. But at the end of the day, it's your product. You're responsible for it. The better you do, the better we'll do at market. And all of the best products that I've ever been involved with that have sold in the millions, and I've had many of them that sold in many millions of units. You go back to an inventor like Josh Malone of the Bunch of Balloons, or Tom Risch of the Misto Gourmet Olive Oil Sprayer, or the folks that did Food Huggers or the Bagel Biter, all the things that I've sold in the millions of, the odor absorbing splatter screen. These people spent a lot of time really working out the iterations, making it functional, and really thinking beyond the company. You said before, look beyond the company to the marketplace, to the customer. You're not trying to just get into Harvard. You want a career, in the Supreme Court someday. You want to look beyond that if you really want to be successful. I don't know if that makes sense. If it doesn't, read the book.
Yeah, it makes sense to me, but yes, you're absolutely right, because it's hard to say something I think as deep and meaningful as what you're trying to explain in a sound bite. Yeah. So, in terms of just bottom lining it, the reality is it goes beyond just a few steps, like have an idea, get a patent, create a sell sheet, go license it. And I think there's a place and a space for that. I personally, it's not worked for me, but I've seen it work. At least there have been demonstrations of it working outside there. So that's fine. For me, I want to be in the business of inventing, patenting, and licensing over and over again. And in order to make that a business, it has to have a return on the investment. And so understanding and treating it as a business that goes far beyond simplifying it. And it is a fairly simple process, but it's not an easy process.
Well, that's the theme of my book.
Simple, not easy.
I just start off saying, if you're just baking a pie to share with your neighbors, God bless you and good luck. If you're baking a pie commercially to sell, and then you need to make money off that pie, and it's a whole different approach to it, as you well know. So I have a lot of books are in the marketplace that are written by marketers. It's easy, it's this, it's that, and basically it, it lures you into this stuff. I've tried to take the opposite approach, and it's probably why I won't sell as many books.
Yeah, well, and I think there's a place for that, though. Yeah. Well, we're not going to get into that debate. Okay, Brian is asking. Hi, Brian, by the way. He's a student at the Invention Accelerator. Is there a magic price point, Warren, that you'd like to see for inventions that come into you? Anticipated retail price, maybe?
Well, okay. Let me define that, refine that question.
Yeah.
There's always a magic price point for every product, but it's different for every product. And by the way, price points have evolved and have been changing too over the many years I've been in retail and in this business. But it depends upon the product. So you have to really take a look at it. You have to do your research in the marketplace and try to find out where the sweet spot is. When we launched Misto, did I ever tell you about Misto? I can always keep it next to me because it's.
I don't think so.
Are you familiar with Misto? Or
I am not.
Oh, okay. Well, for your audience and stuff. So this was my first product with an Inventor. I had retail stores.
How long ago was that?
Well, this was in the fall of 1997.
97. All right.
All right. And I had a bunch of Williams-Sonoma type cookware stores and a food store called the Good Food Store. I had a cooking school. My partner in the food store was Paul Newman, the iconic actor. We did a lot of catering for Paul. It was about the time that he started Newman's Own. And I had come up from New York City as a New York City department store buyer. And I had a really good eye for new products. And I was in the houseware space. And I had a lot of connections, unusual connections, Lisa, with Cuisinart and Kitchen, a lot of big companies that I bought for in New York. So I knew all the principals of the company, and I've been doing it for years. So when I came to Darien, Connecticut and started my first store and then branched it out, I would call up my old friends at these companies. And if they ever had a product they wanted to test or try, they would launch it and pre-test it through the Complete Kitchen. We were in Darien, Greenwich, high-end, very high-end, affluent towns in Connecticut. And so I got a reputation. So I launched the Rima cookie sheet, insulated cookie sheets, Mouli Mincer, the Dom VA ice cream maker, all these products that went on to sell millions and millions of units. We were the first store in America. And my real coup de grace was Nestle's, the Nespresso coffee system. Are you familiar with the pods, the Nestle pods? And
sure,
all that?
Of course.
Well, the guy that came from Geneva, from Nestle's, the world's largest food purveyor and coffee purveyor, came to Greenwich, Connecticut. Of course, where else would he live? One of the most affluent towns in America. And he came over to run the Nestle's division to launch Nespresso, these little pods. They were already selling in Europe. And he came to a Cooking with Gas show in Greenwich, Connecticut that I happened to be at. I met him. We started talking, and he said to me, I've got this. I'm from Nestle's. I got these capsules. I want to sell them, and would you help me sell them? Because he didn't really know where he was going to get started. And I said, sure, we'd love to test them in the store. Tell me a little bit about them. Well, the capsules were $1 a piece, and bought them in tens, and the machines were going to be $500 made by Krups. And I said to him, good luck. That's high price. I know we're going to get back to price point, but that's a high price point. It's going to be a difficult challenge for you. He said, I'll tell you what. He said, I'm going to give you 10 free machines. I'm going to use your catering company to do a big party. I'm going to use your mailing list. We're going to send them out. We're going to do a big party in Greenwich. We did. We sold all 10 machines. The rest was history. We sold the first 300 Nespresso coffee system. They took me to Venice for a trip, my wife and all. I mean, it was one of these things that was idyllic, but the point being,
American dream,
where I really try to get at is I had a really good eye for products. So one day a guy comes in the store with this product called Misto. Misto is an olive oil sprayer. You remove the top.
Oh, I do remember that.
You fill it with oil.
Sure.
Yeah, approved liner, inside. You screw the top back on, and then you use the top to pressurize it. It's a patented top, right? And that allows you to spray the olive oil naturally. So guess what? You wouldn't have to use PAM. PAM uses propane gas. PAM is not good around a flame. PAM uses low-grade vegetable oil. This you can choose your own. And PAM, there's enough cans of PAM thrown out every year to circumnavigate the globe. So Tom Risch came in. He was an inventor. He had invented many other things. He showed it to me. He described it to me. He had already showed it to 20 people who didn't get it, other men who didn't get it. Men didn't get it. I saw this thing with my cooking school and everything. I said, that's awesome. I said, I'll take 100 of them right now. And he said, I haven't built them yet. It's just a prototype. It's the first time I ever heard the word prototype. This is 1997.
Wow.
So I said to him, listen, I've launched a lot of products here. I'll help you when you're ready. Make up 50 or 100. We'll sell them here. By the way, do you mind? Could I help you take it out to market? Because I always said he didn't have a company or background or anything in it. So we teamed up. He made them. We made them in Bethel, Connecticut. We started making 100 a day. 1,000 a day, 7,000. We sold 1.2 million units the first year we were in business. We completely destroyed the market. We were the number one seller in Bloomingdale's, Macy's, everybody across the country. And we made millions of dollars. Tom made he never had to work again. I made millions. And it got my career started. And that's when I decided to sell the stores and get into the inventor world. Now, getting back to price point, and the reason why I went down this path, we started selling this product for $19.99. The price point was magical, to answer your question. And the thing is, that's the value of it. Today, Misto sells, it's still selling millions of units. It probably sold over 30 million units. It sells for about $9.99 now. So the price point has come down.
Right.
I mean to say that this iPhone isn't worth $600. So one of the things you have to do and evaluate through various means of testing is to find out where the sweet spot is, and then you have to see if you can manufacture for the right price point. Because if the price point is too low and it costs too much to manufacture, it doesn't matter what you're going to do. You're going to produce a lot of them. You're not going to sell them. And I've been down that path. I haven't had only successes. I've had some monumental failures as well. So you learn this, and price point is critical, but it's a lot of evaluation and testing. And that's a long answer to a short question.
It's okay. It's a great story too. I love how you fill it in with all the color. Let me try and boil it down to something more simple. If an inventor is out there with an idea for a product, what can they do? And they don't have all the domain expertise that you have. What can they do to make sure that their cost of goods and then ultimately their MSRP, suggested retail price, aligns with whatever your vision for it might be before even bringing it to you? Is there research they can do? What can they do for themselves?
And that would be helpful, because if you bring me that type of thing, I'm very impressed with it. So let's talk about retail first. That's the easier part. You use a variety of ways. You go online, check for similar products. I used to say, like, if you have a hardware product, go and walk Home Depot. Go up and talk to the people. Everyone's always scared to talk to the Home Depot salespeople. They're not ripping off your idea, okay? You can tell them about it. You can get a feel from them. Would it sell for this? Would it sell for that? That's where a working prototype really comes in handy too. You go, hey, what do you think? It just makes the conversation that much better.
So get feedback from salespeople and based on other products in the market.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And the retail portion of it, you should be able to, and don't fool yourself. Be open-minded. I will just say, and you know this too, that it used to be like on DRTV, short form, 1-minute commercials and all. It's always the $19.99 price point with magic. Can't get too much below that because there's not enough profit in it. But today, there's a lot of people do things at $29, $39.99. So the price point's been moving up a little bit. So that's something you can do at retail to evaluate. And don't do them separately, your evaluations. Do not let one cloud the other. So suddenly your costs are high. So in your mind, you get a little more slack and you said, oh, I can sell it for that. Do them separately. Coming back on the cost side, it's a little bit harder. You need a little more connections. You need to know a little bit about engineering, maybe about costing, about where to go overseas to get it costed.
So rather than explaining how they can find out what the cost of goods would be, maybe just give us an idea of what the markup should be so they can go figure out if it costs a small enough amount to get the margin that you need. What would that have to be?
Yeah, good question. And I'll give a very generic answer. Typically 5 times.
Okay.
You come back to that all the time. So if this product's $19.99, you want to land it in the U.S. for $4.
Got
So,
it.
and there are exceptions again to that rule. But and if an inventor comes to me and doesn't really know much about the cost of the goods, I don't hold that against them because that's another skill set. But getting a feel for the retail is something that you should be able to put together pretty easily.
Awesome. Okay, Brian, I hope that answers your question. Wendy says, and by the way, I introduced you to Wendy at the show. I am at a painful crossroad. My product is in the prototyping stage. The next thing I need to do is spend the money on custom injection molds. This will cost around $5,500, but it is the only way that I can do real testing of my product. How do you make the decision to move forward or move on to another product?
Well,
Such a good question.
yeah, it really is. It's a great
Yeah.
question. Again, here's
Smart.
where we dance on the head of the pin. So when I talk about a prototype, I'm not talking about necessarily developing, the molds, the tools, and everything else, and figuring out exactly how to manufacture it yet. That's something that comes down the road. I would recommend, and please, 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 folks, do not go out and make up 1,000 of them, okay, and put them in your garage. I've been down that road a lot of times too with people doing that. You get out ahead of it. When I'm talking about a prototype, it's using someone who can build you a prototype without having to do a $5,500 mold. Now, it still may cost you $1,000 or $1,500, but don't keep it within limits. Shop it around. I would recommend everybody, Lisa, to join a local inventor club. I know you run a great one in Arizona. If you're in Arizona, join yours. If you're in Connecticut, there's the Inventors Association of Connecticut.
Go to the UIA website and see a list of all of them in the country, right?
It's even better than that now. We now have a map, so you can put the arrow on the state, click it, and get all the resources that you want there. There's almost always prototypers and people that can help you that belong to these clubs. Please, don't go out and spend a lot of money on molds, tools, and get ahead of yourself. Stay within yourself one step at a time. And it will cost you a little bit sometimes, but build one. You can figure out later how to mass produce them.
Yeah, Wendy, stick around. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about printing, 3D printing and that sort of thing as well, based on some of the questions I see coming up here. Derek is asking, do you only consider products with intellectual property protection?
So for the companies, again, it's a similar answer to prototyping, that the DRTV companies sometimes are not as militant about intellectual property because they can get to market very quickly. But for a traditional company like Lifetime Brands or Tektronix Industries, or a lot of the companies that I've worked with showing products as well, intellectual property is very important. Now, intellectual property comprises many different things, and it also comprises copyrights and trademarks and utility patents and design patents. So you can read my section in the book about that. The most valuable of all, though, are utility patents. And we don't require, or none of the companies I've required, because I've basically taught the companies, so they picked up in the program, issued patents. They don't even require non-provisional patents. What we do find very important is a provisional patent application, which is the first level of utility patenting. And it's something that holds a place for you for 12 months while you decide what it is that you want to do. The actual filing fee at the patent office is about $400, but if you have an attorney do it for you, it's usually $1,000 or so. And it helps put a stake in the ground, because here's what happens when we come back to do a licensing deal. Almost always, we will want the patent converted to a non-provisional, and then people say, well, that's going to cost some money, and that's where we up the advance to cover that cost, so that so it all works. At the end of the day, the best licensing deals are when you, the inventor, own the patent, not the company. Now, I know there's this stuff that you can say is you can get people and companies to buy the patent and put up the patent and do all this stuff. And I suppose that could happen again, but generically, and most of the time, the process is you own the patent, you develop it, stay within your timeline and within yourself, use the provisional, the PPA to get accomplished what you want to get accomplished with discussions, and then hold your fire until you are ready for a licensing deal, and then convert it. If you get to the end of the year and nobody's shown any interest, you probably have your answer. By the way, it comes back to the same thing as dating and love, okay? You can do a lot of dating and divorce. Yeah, I don't know divorce. I mean, 39 years. but I happily, but I will say this, that if you get to the end, you've had a lot of day, and everybody's saying no, it's probably time to give up. The time to advance, put money into things is when people love you and they're lined up. When we launched Misto, they were lined up like, Lisa, you didn't see anything like it at this show. It was the George Foreman Grill and the Misto, the year that we came out in 98 at the show. We couldn't keep, I was getting calls from the president of Macy's. Hey, Brian, has a Misto? Awesome.
Brian has one.
You don't know how many airplanes I've been on. I could tell you stories from around the world where people have brought out their Mistos to show me. But I would get calls from the president of Macy's. We need 10,000 more. Please get them into us. And I'd say, I don't know. I'll do my best. Tom built an 8-foot tall Misto. I put this up, and we walked it right into Macy's Herald Square. We went right into Bloomingdale's before 9/11. Took them right down the escalator and set them up. My point being, we like when you know something, people are coming to you, running you down when it's great, and that's what you're looking for. Anything in between, full unadulterated love and dating is you're in the never land sometimes. And if you're putting a lot of time and energy and it's not happening, most of the time it's probably not going to work out. Now, I'm not saying there aren't people like, Lord Dyson in England who invented the Dyson vacuum cleaner and, didn't eat for 3 years and became a billionaire. That happens, but it's very rare and it probably won't happen to you.
And that's why we always recommend, and if you watch my videos, by the way, I'll throw up a banner in a second here about how you can find my videos, free videos on YouTube. But the stage gate process is all about failing fast. You want to thoroughly exhaust all of the research and test all of your theories and hypotheses, because at the moment you have an idea, it's all just in theory that it's a great idea. And you wouldn't move forward if you didn't believe it was a good idea, but it's still just a belief until you can validate it with a real world business case for it. So that stage gate process is really important. And hopefully you find out whether it's time to walk away very early by maybe getting as far as making a sample or a Frankenstein working model, proof of concept, whatever you want to call it, so that you can get it in the hands of experts and get their feedback before investing a lot, like Warren was saying.
I love that. Stage gate. I love that. Did you come
Stage gate process? Yeah, I don't own it. It's been around. I just learned after I was already doing it that's what it was called. Troy loves the Nespresso. He says it's the best coffee maker ever.
By the way, you know your coffee because Nestle's is the biggest purveyor of the coffee in the world. They take only their top coffee and put it hermetically seal it in the capsule. It's an amazing process. So you were spot on, my friend.
How do you feel about, Carrie asks, how do you feel about inclusive products, meaning products for the disability marketplace?
That's a really good
Carrie.
question.
I'm sorry, I said Kelly, I meant Carrie.
Yeah. And by the way, inclusion has a lot of meanings to me, and I'm very involved, Lisa, in the National Council for the Empowerment of American Innovation, the Provisional Patent Council, and many volunteer national organizations and Department of Commerce actually too. When I talk about inclusion, is to get more women, more minorities, more rural folks, more military folks in the innovation ecosystem. We're only running about 25% capacity. Let me go back to the question again, because the question was specifically inclusion on another front. And So disability. So let's talk about disability. So I had a product years ago called Stir Chef. Hold on, do I still have one? Oh no, I have Easy Stir. Okay, Easy Stir. It's a product that I helped develop. Okay, and I had it after Misto, and it was we had another version called Stir Chef, and it was an automatic saucepan stir that had a drop.
Oh, I remember that. I remember it.
And so I learned a very valuable lesson there. That I didn't do enough market research. I thought I came off Misto. I made a lot of money. Quite frankly, I thought I was a genius. I kept thinking, what's my next product? What am I going to do now? So I would walk stores. I would hold up cans of soup and say, stir, occasionally stir, continuously stir, pasta, beans, whatever. I would go to cookbooks. I started getting obsessed. The most common command given in cooking is to stir, right? So what did I come up with? I'm going to come up with a stirring device. It had 4 AA batteries. It had a motor that was powerful enough to stir cement, spring-loaded arms that could adjust to any size pan, a drop-down paddle with living hinge. I could go on. A typical man, I can tell you. This is why I learned.
You're literally doing what you described earlier.
Yeah, I just don't talk. This is $1 million mistake, and So we went down this path. We built these. By the way, I had a high end one called Stir Chef to sell. Going to be a $29.99 retail. By the way, Bed Bath would pay $12 for it. The margin requirements. Had a $19.99 version called Easy Stir. Walmart would pay $12 to sell it $19.99. Separate the market, high end, knocked ourselves off. Every possible thing you can think of.
Tried all kinds of. Hey, and before you finish answering the question, she had a follow-up to her question. The reason I ask about the disability marketplace is because it may be less of a make you rich product, but an altruistic product that keeps so many investors away and leaves the disabled communities with little to no innovations.
Well, I'm eventually going to come around and answer your question very directly.
Eventually. Well, we only have 10 minutes left in the show, so.
We took this product to the show, sold 110,000 pieces the first day of the show. The 2005 Housewares show was talk of the town. We were on Today's Show, Good Morning America, everything else.
Wow.
But here's the problem, and here's what I'm really getting to. The product completely bombed in market. It did not have mass appeal. High-end people like to stir themselves. The Martha Stewarts put the love in themselves in the cooking. Low-end, nobody stirs. They just put it in the microwave. The only people that bought the product were senior citizens and disabled folks. And so I switched the product to do continual marketing to those arenas. And we always got wonderful letters and feedback from those, but it wasn't a big enough marketplace. And so here's the problem. It's like the boating industry or the camping industry or the or whatever it is. America has 350 million people in it, but when you get in these little subset and categories, your numbers dwindle. So if you're going to develop a product for disabled folks, you can't take the typical path to market. It's not a mass product. It's not like selling a garlic press that every home in America has one, or cutlery. You have to look at it different. As a result, you have to upgrade the quality. You have to become more niche oriented in your marketing and your approach. You have to raise your margins because you're not going to sell as many. And you have to change your whole business model. So yes, there is a marketplace for products that help the disabled. I'm very close to that. My wife's younger sister has MS. We do a lot of special things for her. We're very involved. My wife is on the MS board. So we're very familiar with the disability community, but it's a whole different marketplace. And I learned this the hard way. So if you're going to develop a disabled product, you may not be able to license it. It may be more of a direct to market. It may be more niche. You have to stay on top of it. And you have to be, have just a different approach is what I'm going to say.
So are large companies who sell into mass as interested in something that is aimed at that audience?
No.
And is it because they don't care about the disabled?
Not on a personal level. I mean, you could have the president of the company who has a disabled child. It's just from the marketplace standpoint.
Economics.
It doesn't fit. You're either selling Walmart or you're selling, so therein though lies the opportunity, because these big companies are not good at it. If you have something special and it's a real particular interest to you, so don't give up. Just and read my book, because I talk about this specifically. If you've got a niche product like this, raise the prices a little bit. You have to, because it's got to pay for something and make it special. There's two ways to make $1 million, folks. One is to sell 1 million of them at $1. The other is to sell one at $1 million. Okay, so somewhere in between is your sweet spot. You got to figure out where it is.
Oh, I like that. So finding the right company who already caters to the specific audience, and it doesn't matter whether it's a product for disabilities or a product specifically for women versus men, or is it a mass merchandise type product, or is it a niche? You find the companies who sell to that specific audience, and those are the companies that are most likely going to be interested in licensing, assuming you've done a great job solving a problem.
And by the way, there's 30,000 trade shows in America, and I'm sure there's trade shows dedicated to.
There's a trade show, an association. I always joke there's a trade show for dog lovers and they're for pet owners. There's a trade show for pet owners, pets themselves who have pets. Like, it's just crazy. It just goes deeper and deeper. Jay asks, if you move ahead with a product, do you evaluate how good the patent is? In other words, whether you can get around the claims?
Well, we have a process, for instance, at Lifetime, when we get serious about moving ahead, and I have 2 licensing agreements I'm working on this week. That then, when we're serious about it, and of course we're all under non-disclosure, and now we're sharing the patent information and the claims. Lifetime, some companies have their own patent attorneys on board. Lifetime Damages is a $1 billion company, but we use an outside counsel. But it's the same review. That person reviews the patent in depth, and they have a number of questions get back. Any searches you do could be helpful to get it through the process, but a decision is made on the strength of the patent. Now, here's the kicker. We will sometimes go ahead, even if the patent is not as strong as we'd like it to be. However, sometimes that has an effect on the royalty rate you're going to get. We might pay 5% for something with a really strong patent, but only 3% if it's a mediocre patent. So there are benefits to having a strong patent, using a good patent attorney. Again, join your local Inventor organization. Look on the UIAUSA.org website. There's always patent attorneys that belong to these clubs, and usually good ones. Or call Lisa and she'll give you her patent attorney.
And I'll say that again. You can go to the UIAUSA.org website to find a Inventor group in your area. Most of them are doing them online now. So if there's one in your area, or if there isn't one in your area, or if there's one in your area you don't like for any particular reason, there are a lot more to choose from. And I hope to see that kind of change going forward. It's bizarre because of the COVID times, what it's created, but at the same time, it's helpful. We only have about 4 minutes left in the show. I cannot believe how fast this goes by. And I want to make sure we've got everyone's questions answered. So if you haven't asked yet, make sure you drop it in there right away. And if you can just share with me, Warren, before we wrap up, and I do want to get to 1 or 2 more really quick questions. What happens? Just set the expectation for the inventor. Someone has an idea and they reach out to a company and ask, do you accept outside inventions? And they say, yes, submit it through my portal. Tell me what's happening on the other side of that veil so we know what to expect.
Well, we get them every day. And, we sometimes take a couple of days to get back to you. Be patient. If there's interest, you'll get a quick read. Because let's face it, most of the time I'm saying no for whatever reason, because I've already been through it or whatever. But if it's something that I have more interest in, I want to see a prototype, I want to talk to you more. The next step might be sign non-disclosures. That could take another week. If it's sharing prototypes, that could take another week. And then, quite frankly, the people at Lifetime need a couple of weeks to look at it. I mean, all this stuff, suddenly it's 6-8 weeks, and you're going, what's going on, and so forth. The evaluation can take a couple of months. Now, you can certainly apply other places. You can go on other dates. You can look at other things. The question is, what serves your best interests? And if it's something, say, in the gadget arena or bakeware, something that we're strong at, you're probably should be patient and hold on, because these things don't go overnight. If I've told you that we're interested and like the product and you don't hear more from me right away, it doesn't mean it's bad news. Usually when I have bad news, I give it to you right away because I'm trying to clean my plate. And know that sometimes this could take 6 months. It's not unusual. It really is not. So if you find a better deal or an offer, take it. Never try to fake me out by saying, I have another offer and I'm going to go for it. Hey, good luck to you. Have a nice life. And then 9 times out of 10, the person calls me the next day and says, I didn't mean it, And, all right. So that's fine. We all play the little games here, but be patient. You're allowed to check in every so often. Every 2-3 weeks is fine. If you're bugging me every day, like this person was South Africa, I've already written it off. So it takes time. And then when you get to, we're ready to go ahead with a licensing deal, it usually takes another 6 weeks to put the deal together and go back and forth. So it takes time. And then the first year after you signed it, they got to tool it, produce it, package it, get it ready and take it out. So this all takes a little bit of time, I guess, is my answer to you.
When you say it's obviously each of these steps, they're going to evaluate this and evaluate that. Can you be as specific as possible for me? Yes. What criteria, what data are they looking for to validate or make a good business case to extend an offer?
Data is way too an impressive word.
What do they need to know? Do they need to know cost of margin? Do they need to know if it's manufacturable? Do they need to get feedback from buyers? What do they need to know?
For step one, none of that's necessary. Step one is to describe your product generally, but
no, not the inventor. I'm sorry.
Oh,
internally.
internally, what are we?
What are they doing behind the veil when you say we're going to look at it and we'll get back to you? That's the mystique. That's what I want to uncover for our audience.
Okay, so obviously I vet and narrow down the ones that are, I think.
Sure, you do the initial pass. You're the
When I
gatekeeper.
get into them, and they've already looking at the best things that I assemble so far. So then it becomes a discussion of, now, mind you, they have a tremendous amount of knowledge about what sells, both data collection wise. Like, for instance, I found out that the fifth best selling product in all of housewares are splatter screens. Would you have ever known that?
Or what?
Splatter screens. Are you familiar with
splatter screens? Yeah, the screen. Yeah, I love them. Yep.
Okay. I had no idea. If you had asked me in a million years, I wouldn't have put that in the top 100. Okay.
Wow.
But it was the fifth biggest selling item for the company. So they have a lot of data on knowing what sells. This is garlic presses, this, that. So sometimes if you come to me, I can tell you with my response, like, what's not a big seller? Those jar opener things. We get back to disabled. That's not a big volume, mass oriented thing.
Yet there's hundreds of them on the market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the next step is to sort of put it in what category it is. What are we trying to exploit here? Is it a big selling category? Usually they know right off the top of their heads. If they don't, we look up the numbers and see. So the next step is an evaluation. Does it make sense? Then they get excited based upon, they get it. They immediately get that it fits into a slot and fills a void that they don't have. Either they don't have it at all, or there's a value add to it that takes it into a new category. Then we start to get more serious. And that is when we want to see your prototype. So that's the next step. You got to be ready for that. Don't miss that window. We bring it in, we evaluate it, we test it. I keep following up. I keep staying on top of it. And we go through that process. And when they like it, and I'm going to give you a specific example here, then listen, we don't know how it's going to sell yet. So there's no data yet that can be, said. And if you tell me that something's just like it, I'm going to say, well, then why are we going to carry it? Because it's a little bit of an unknown here. It's like heads I win, tails you lose. So you got to be careful. But we're going to then make our best projections based on what we know. So I'm going to tell you about a product that I haven't been able to talk about that I'm so proud of, and it's classic, and it'll be, I think, wonderful for your audience today. And I'll tell you exactly the process. So 2 years ago, a person came to me, and they had kids that played hockey. And they were an optical engineer, so they developed a device that would not only sharpen their skates, but they could run it over the skate blade, and it would either signal with an optical light, red, yellow, or green, just like a traffic light. And if it was red, it means the skates were dull, they needed to be sharpened. If it's yellow, they were okay, probably needed a little buffing. And if they were green, they were good to go. I love the product. I love the guy. It checked all the boxes. And I said, this is awesome. The only thing is there's only like 7 people in America that play hockey. So if cutlery is in everybody's homes, if you redesign this and make it for cutlery, we're talking. He went back 3 months later, came back with a cutlery specific to we license it. So here's the process that we went through at Lifetime to give a real live in-time example. That product is just coming out on the marketplace now under a variety of brands. So the next step for Lifetime, love it. They just freaked. I mean, it was one of those things that was true love. When true love happens, and I had a good feeling about it too. The next step after that was, does it really work? Samples, evaluation.
Testing it. Okay.
Then we have a division called Taylor Thermometers, which was all electronics, digital, and everything else. It went out to them for wiring, digital stuff, all the necessary things behind the scenes. They put it through the pace. I don't know how many calls I got on between the optical engineer and the smarty pants out there that were like, I would sit in these meetings and there was like this, all the technical stuff between it. It doesn't always have to be that way, but there was an understanding that they were all on the same wavelength. Then it was building more prototypes. Then was building, figuring out how much it would cost and take it out. These are all steps along the process. Once you submit your prototype and they start evaluating, they can do a lot of the work on their own, but they just want you available to be there for questions, things they missed, and so forth. And then eventually we sign the licensing agreement. The inventor stays in the process all the time, even right down to packaging. We keep them very involved in the process. And now the product's about to go out to market, and we think it's going to be one of the big items for the company this year. So I know I missed some things there, but hopefully generally that'll give you the idea of the process that we go through.
It was awesome, and we're already over by a few minutes, but I don't even care. Everyone loved the show today, Warren. The comments just keep coming in. They really enjoyed, and they're saying it's one of the best that we've done. So
Oh,
I appreciate it. I want to remind everybody. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your question, but feel free to book a free call with me, even if you've done it already. If I didn't answer your question today, I'm happy to try again on the phone. Just go to theinventionaccelerator.com. And you can find a time that works best for you. As you can see here, you can reach out to Warren. You can submit your products to him on his website where it says TuttleInnovation.com, or you can go to his email address, which I'll pop up one last time, www.tuttle, that's Tuttle, @yahoo.com, to pick up his book. Make sure you pick up his book, Inventor Confidential. I have not finished reading it, so I say this without having done it, but just based on this conversation and what I know about Warren, this is going to be a great read for me, and I hope you enjoy it also. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next week. Warren, thank you so much for being here. This is a lot of fun.
thanks for having me.
Will you come back? Will you do it again with me?
Absolutely, anytime.
All right. I'm going to have you back in a couple months. All right. Thanks, everybody. I'll give you back the rest of your day. Have a great one.